Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm actually talking about a film that came out in 2020, and that's Bad Boys for Life. This is basically a preparation movie review for Bad Boys Ride or Die for when I review that. So in this movie, though, you guys, it's been a long time since Bad Boys 2. I think it was 18 years between that film and Bad Boys for Life. So we follow Mike and Marcus, and they are, they're several years older now. And Marcus is now a grandfather. He's trying to retire. He doesn't want to be this officer anymore. And while this is going on, there's been a really bad problem within this Miami, area that they live in, where a lot of these law enforcement officials are starting to get like assassinated. And so over the course of this movie, both Mike and Marcus have to figure out why this is happening. How come Mike in particular is on this hit list because they try to assassinate him at one point, and they also have to figure out who's behind all this. There's also a character of Mike's past, but Will Smith's character who has to deal with a person from his past, so he has that going on for him. And over the course of this movie, we also have to figure out why this hit list, who's this organization, who's running it, and why exactly this person from Mike's past can basically be a really bad thing if things start to go wrong. And this happens over the course of Bad Boys for Life. But overall, guys, I really enjoyed this film a lot. I do feel kind of bad that I didn't see this film around the time it first came out. Obviously, the pandemic hit shortly after this movie was released and things like that. So there's a lot of conflicting factors as to why it took me as long as it did to see this film. But I really like this film a lot. Michael Bay did not direct this film. I believe I just looked it up a second ago. It was like Arby and Falah. I apologize in advance if that's completely not the right way to pronounce that, but they were basically the directing replacement over Michael Bay. Even though Michael Bay does have a cameo role in this film, so be on the lookout for that. If you're really sad about him not returning as director, he does have a little acting bit in this movie. But overall, guys, like I said, I really enjoyed this film a lot. I have a ton of positives and negatives to go over with this movie. I can definitely see why this film got a sequel, 4 years later and stuff like that. Tons of great things to love about this film. So let's go over some positives and negatives as why I really like this film, while also some things about I think that could have been better as well. So for my positives of this movie, first and foremost, this is a very fun film to watch. I absolutely love seeing Will Smith and Martin Lawrence acting together. I wasn't a gigantic fan of like the very first Bad Boys film, but those two in particular, their screen chemistry I thought was very, very, very strong ever since the beginning. And I wasn't a huge fan of Bad Boys 2 either, but even with that one, once again, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, their screen chemistry really brings a lot to that story. They're really kind of the reason why you turn in for a Bad Boys movie. Um, Tons of fun to watch, tons of jokes, tons of action. There's a lot of stuff here, regarding morality and, is there a time to stop something? Is there a time to keep moving forward with something? There's a lot of morality questions asked over the course of this film of the audience and of the characters, and I really enjoyed that aspect of the film in particular. And like I just brought up a second ago, another huge plus for this movie is Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. Huge, great screen chemistry. They both have a ton of great things to do here. Whether it's Martin Lawrence trying to be a grandfather, him trying to retire, him trying to figure out if he really does want to go back to doing police work again, and with Will Smith, obviously there's a ton of stuff with his people of his past, him kind of battling his own demons, him um, also trying to figure out if this whole police work thing really is for him anymore. There's just so many dangerous aspects of him kind of sticking around with this, and there's like even these like supervisor capacity positions that his boss is trying to throw at him that are not a good fit for him. And so over the course of this film, it's just so great to see great screen chemistry between these two actors. And like I mentioned a second ago, too, there's a lot of great jokes here. Specifically, a lot of jokes with Martin Lawrence becoming a grandfather. I thought those jokes in particular landed really well. There's even scenes where, because earlier on when Mike gets hurt, here I just got there. Martin Lawrence's character basically prays to God that if Mike survives this recovery, if he's able to return to police work and things like that, he'll forever be in God's debt. He'll not do any, no more violence and stuff like that. He's just going to strictly stick to the word of God and all that kind of stuff. And so they really play into how Marcus tries to resolve things non-violently throughout the rest of the movie. And there's just a ton of funny stuff with how Will Smith kind of convinces him to go back to the Marcus that he knew, and how he kind of convinces him to be that person again. And so there's just a lot of stuff like that that I think really lands in this movie. Specifically, I think there's a guy that's a coke addict that Marcus tries to handle at one point, and how he tries to handle it and how Will Smith eventually has to resolve the issue, I thought was also very funny. So there's just tons of stuff like that that I think really lands in this movie really well. And like I mentioned also earlier, the action scenes are very well done. I do like how there is a change of directors. I know a lot of people aren't going to be happy about this answer, but I am kind of glad that Michael Bay isn't directing the Bad Boys films anymore. I think it is a franchise that belongs to other directors to give a try to. There's tons of other great franchises Michael Bay can direct if he wants. But I really do think a change of directors was the right way to go. The action seems more in camera. There's not as much shaky cam anymore. You can actually see what's going on in the shot now. I just really like how the action scenes in particular were well choreographed, well shot. And I do like how they do kind of step away from the whole Michael Bay approach of just explosions and shaky cam and cars flying around all over the place and stuff. I do like how they had a change of pace with the action scenes. I think it really benefited the film quite a bit. And I also thought the cinematography was well done here. I thought it was well shot. I thought the directors and their cinematographer found like the best possible way to shoot every possible scene in the movie. It really does feel like we're kind of there in the moment with these characters and experiencing what they're experiencing. So I thought the cinematography was also very strong in this film. But for my negatives for Bad Boys for Life, unfortunately, there are a lot of plot conveniences in this movie, specifically with a lot of these law enforcement officials being, hunted down for this assassination list. A lot of them are like basically living outside, it seems like, and so there's just a lot of parts where you would think the news and the police department and all these other organizations would highly encourage people who work in law enforcement to stay indoors whenever possible while this assassination scandal was going on. And so there's just a lot of scenes where these people are basically being hunted down left and right, and you just kind of wonder, they don't have any bodyguards, no protection, no weapons. Some of these characters are just, like I said, being slaughtered like left and right, and you would think the news and the police department and everybody else would just be on this like right away, and the film just has this approach of, this person got hunted down, this person got hunted down, this person got hunted down, and they all seem to be living outside, it seems like. And so there's just a lot of parts like that where you do kind of roll your eyes and be like, do people really spend that much time outside? So there's stuff like that where I thought it felt kind of convenient. I also thought the film would have benefited from more jokes. There's just a lot of scenes where, because they have to take certain moments more seriously, I do kind of miss the humor when it's not there. And so on the scenes where the jokes really land, I really wish there was kind of more scenes that played out like that, because when it does have humor in this film, I think the film shines the best. I think Martin Lawrence's and Will Smith's abilities to play these characters shines the most when those scenes occur. For me personally, I know there's a lot of them already, but I do feel like the film would have benefited from even more jokes because it is some of the better parts of the film. I also wish the stakes of the film happened sooner. I do feel like some of the bigger stakes in this movie that happen closer to the third act, if not in the third act. And that's really too bad, because I think there are certain opportunities the script could have taken where if certain reveals happened sooner, the stakes would have felt bigger, certain action scenes would have had more depth to them. But because they do decide to wait for some of these bigger reveals to happen way later in the film, we're kind of left with stakes that don't feel quite as big at first, but then when we kind of see what's happening more so under the surface, that's when the film really starts to get interesting. And obviously, as of this review in particular, I haven't watched Bad Boys Ride or Die yet, but we'll have to kind of see how. It'll be interesting to see kind of what I feel about that film going into this one. Now that I know kind of all the stuff that's been going on between Marcus and Mike and all that kind of stuff, so. Hopefully that doesn't happen in the next Bad Boys film, but we'll have to wait and find out. But I do wish that the stakes kind of happened a little sooner than they did in the script. I also felt like the script didn't really apply Will Smith and Will Smith and Martin Lawrence's age to their characters as well as they could have, because they are much older now. There clearly is a lot of scenes where stunt doubles were used and stuff like that. There's just a lot of scenes where I do feel like they try to treat this like it was a Bad Boys 3 that came out in like the late 2000s or something. Um, and for me personally, because I do know that these two actors are much older now, there's just a lot of moments that don't quite fit as well as they once did. There's even a character that refers to Will Smith as grandpa. So there's like, when you have jokes like that, it doesn't really land as well, and doesn't make it as believable when they're doing stuff that they were doing when they were younger and stuff. So there's just moments like that where I wish the film kind of put that into perspective a little bit more. But overall, I'm going to give Bad Boys for Life an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a wonderful film. As of this moment, I haven't watched Bad Boys 4 yet, but it's my favorite of the Bad Boys films. I think there's a lot of depth here. I like how Marcus and Mike have a lot more going on with their characters this time around. It's not just Will Smith and Martin Lawrence doing police stuff like they were doing in the first two films. So there's just more depth to it. There's more humor to it. There's more of a darkness to it. So I do really like this film quite a bit. It's an 8.5 out of 10 for me. If you haven't seen Bad Boys for Life yet, I highly recommend it. And here's hoping Bad Boys Ride or Die will be enjoyable as well.